Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this, all right? Because I don't want to waste any of the fire that I feel up here. I just want to go for it. So we're going to read from Psalm 46. And listen, when 98% of the time, when people teach on Psalm 46, or you see it on the internet, or whatever, it's always the last verse. People always quote the last verse, or the second to last verse, which is, "Be still and know that I'm God." Okay? That's an amazing verse, but we're not going to go there today. That's like the dessert at the end of the sum. Like, if you really want it, you can grab your ice cream on the way out and go read that verse. But there's like this really rich meal at the beginning of Psalm 46 that we are going to lock into today. There's some really good appetizers and brunch going on in the beginning of Psalm 46. So we're going to read that, and I just want to pray right now that the Spirit of God increase our spiritual bellies to take in the fullness of the meal that He wants to deposit within us. So, thank you, Lord. Lord, we love you. We love you. You're so much fun. You're so good. You are mighty to save. You are beautiful. Jesus, we just ask that you would do just that you would increase the capacity of our hearts this morning to take in all that you want to speak, all that you want to release, all that you're doing. Lord, I thank you for your faithfulness. I thank you for the hidden things that you're doing in each life here. I thank you that each person here is precious. I thank you, Lord, that I'm not speaking to a crowd. I'm speaking to your children, one by one, your precious children who you know by name, who you are so faithful to. You know their story. You know what they're going through. You are in the details. Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Lord, you know how to speak to us. And so, Lord, I want to continue to give this time to you, that you would release the word that you have for us today. Amen. So this is how it starts. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. I love that passage. He's not just a help to us. When we experience trouble, he's a very present help. You know why I think we have a hard time finding Jesus in our lives very often? Because Jesus is in the present and we're not. You know what I mean by that? Like, we set up camp. We check out hotels from the past. And we set up shop in the future. We live in the past, we live in the future so much. And we live outside of the moment. And Jesus is just right now. So I want to make you all aware of something that you probably haven't been aware of for a good part of the morning. And that is that right now, you are breathing. You think about it, this is wild, okay? So there's all this invisible stuff floating in the air and you're borrowing it constantly. So right now you're taking in oxygen. You got this little vacuum called your lips. And you are sucking in like some weird succubus creature. You're sucking in oxygen and it goes into your trachea. It goes through the voice box, and then there's a fork in the road. and it goes two different directions into your lungs. And then from there, it travels throughout your body. And it releases these like magical powers. And this like abundant, over the top, like against all odds life starts percolating inside of you. And you grow. And you live. So I want you to become aware of your breathing right now. You know, most of the time we're unconscious of this, as we should be, because, you know, thank God we don't have to consciously make ourselves breathe. Like, your body takes care of it. It's a beautiful thing. And your breath sustains you. Your breath, it's sustaining your life, and it's happening all the time. So, it's the same. I could draw the parallel with Jesus. So, in Colossians chapter 1, it says that all things are sustained in Him. Right now, you are being sustained by Jesus Christ. Like, in this moment, you're mostly unaware of it. A lot of people are completely unaware of it. But it's the truth. Now, here's the important part, though, where I'm going with all this, okay? When you become aware of the true breath of life, when you turn your awareness to the one who is life itself, that is oxygen to your soul. Oxygen in the deepest parts of your being. One of my favorite albums of all time, of the past decade, I guess now, because it came out in 2010. It came to me at a very significant point in my life, this particular album. God will do that. Like when you're, going through things, He'll bring music. He'll bring songs. And He sang the universe into existence. Did you know that? He sang the universe into existence. So, of course, when He's bringing things into existence in your life, there's going to be music. Anyway, He brought music into my life, and it was this artist, this worship leader named Jason Upton. And it was the band, the album, On the Rim of the Invisible World. And God used this album and some other things to bring me into a deeper understanding of grace. Here's something really cool, off subject, well, kind of on subject. Jason Upton is coming to our church next year. Yeah, he's coming to our church, which is like, for those who don't know who he is, you got to check him out. He's amazing, and it's just for me, it's just amazing because of my testimony, my journey. This is before I ever had an inkling I was going to be a pastor, and now I'm a pastor of a church, and he's coming to this church. It's just really cool. It's part of what God's redeeming. Anyway, more info about that in the days ahead. There was a song in this album called "The Shadow of Your Wings," and this is. It's just one line I want to read to you. He says, "I get so thirsty trying to find your presence that I forget to stop and take a drink. I get so thirsty trying to find your presence that I forget to stop and take a drink." Now, that hit me in like a really deep way because at that point in my life, I was doing, quote, a lot of things for God. Good things, but God began to show me that like verses, like pray without ceasing, those verses that say pray all the time and all that. I began to realize that those verses are a lot more enjoyable than I was allowing myself to realize. There's something really beautiful about those verses that has to do with discovering a well of glory inside of you that's with you in this moment. Guys, there is a well. I mean guys and girls when I say guys, right? We're in New Jersey. Everybody. Guys, we have a well inside of us right now. Right now. And it's available. And we miss it so often. And so today I wanted to issue an invitation to you, to that breath of life. And I feel like this is very purposeful. I didn't really think about it until I realized wow, first day of September, this is a good time to talk about this and the change of season. It's a good time to reflect on this because, we have a very present help that's going with us into a new season. So whatever trouble that you're carrying into this season from the last one, or whatever new trouble might await you, can I be honest with you guys today? Jesus made a lot of awesome, glorious, jump in your pants promises, happy dance, but he made this one promise that's like a double-edged sword. He said, in this world, you will have trouble. And I just imagine his eyes when I think about this, because he's talking to his best friends. He's at a table, with friends. It wasn't a church service. This is around a family table kind of thing. And he's looking at him like, I believe, with eyes of such compassion and understanding, saying, friends, you're going to have trouble in this world. But he said, take a big drink of courage. Because the one who has overcome this world is with you. He's with you. I will be with you through it. And are you stopping to take hold of that? Okay, well, in light of that, you got to see this next verse from Psalm 46, okay? Because, well, you'll see. It says, therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea. So, no matter what, this is giving very intense imagery here. No matter what change comes, there is a very present help that is with us. Now look, that statement in the front there, therefore we will not fear, connects with the previous verse. Because fear involves living outside of the present where God is, right? I heard one amen. Fear is you living usually in the future. But really, it's an imaginary future. Fear is about anticipating things that in all likelihood will not happen. And if we're honest with ourselves, when we look back at our lives and you think where things went wrong in your life, usually it's stuff that you didn't anticipate. Give it some thought. I guarantee you'll come into agreement. When you look back on life, a lot of the stuff that happens to us did not line up with what we feared. And regardless of if it lined up or not, we made it through. You made it through. Can you just whisper to yourself right now, I made it. You made it. You're here, guys. Come on. Can we just give Jesus that thanks right now? Thank you. So when we do go through things, like there's a lot more strength to make it through stuff than we give ourselves credit for when we imagine ourselves going through it. Do I need to say that again? So, in the moment when we go through difficulties, there's a lot more strength we discover in ourselves than we give ourselves credit for when we imagine ourselves in those situations. Fear is such a liar. It magnifies these giants of really false possibilities that never happen and cause us to forget that whatever does come, we have a very present help with us to see us through. But I want to hammer this down with you guys this morning, okay? You can't experience Jesus and live in fear at the same time. Because fear is dwelling in an imaginary future, and as we have seen, Jesus is living in a very real present. He's in the moment. Now, I want to acknowledge something here about this verse, because even though fear is a liar, this verse recognizes that things do happen. Okay? Stuff happens. Though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea. That is powerful imagery, isn't it? It's beautiful. Mountains slipping into the sea. So, on a natural level, the psalmist here is writing about earthquakes in the ocean, that cause tsunamis. and could cause cliff sides to shake and crumble and landslides to happen. So literal cliffs will fall into the sea, right? It says in the next verse, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. Selah. So it's powerful imagery because there are few things in this world that are more stable than mountains. You know, when you see a mountain, you think like, that thing's not going anywhere, right? Like, okay, when I drive over to Warwick, I visit my friends over in Pine Island or up the mountain, right? So in this town, you have to go up the mountain. From here, you got to go what's called up the mountain, Upper Greenwood Lake, right, to go to Warwick. So when I wake up in the morning on a day like that, I don't think to myself, I wonder if the mountain made it last night. Like, maybe I should check News 12. You know, get on Facebook and see, like, maybe the mountain didn't make it. Like, I don't know. I usually just get up and go. I figure the mountain's going to be there, right? I mean, mountains are pretty stable pieces of earth on our planet, right? So, this verse is recognizing something here. That sometimes, even the most seemingly stable and constant things in life can and will shake and change. And that is tough. Things that we look at, we get up in the morning and we expect, oh, that thing's just going to be there. What are the mountains in your life that have shaken and maybe even fallen into the sea? I've shared my testimony many times, you know, my story, this piece of it, that I had a mountain in my life that crumbled into the sea at a very young age. And that mountain was my parents' marriage. So that pillar of stability that I was born into, like this was my world for about 3 years. That's, you know, that was my life, right? That's your whole experience. This is my reality, mom and dad. And over the course of, I don't know how long it took, that mountain began to shake, and then rocks began to fall into the swelling pride of the sea, and then boom, eventually that mountain completely split and broke. And it began to form anxiety in my heart. It causes a lot of anxiety for kids that, you know, go through that kind of thing. So that began to form this sense of instability in my life. And I remember after I found the Lord, I was lying asleep one night. This was maybe a year or two after I found God. And I was learning to hear the voice of God. You know, I was learning to wake up to like real Christianity. Like you can hear God's voice. Like this is amazing. And so I was just, you know, practicing and listening and praying and seeking Him and all of that. And out of nowhere, lying on my bed, God just hit me with this image from my childhood of a movie that I used to watch and love and look at all the time. And it was the movie The Land Before Time. You knew I was going there, didn't you? Yeah. So, Brittany knows where it's at. So I'm sure many of you have seen this movie about, you know, it's about dinosaurs. There's this main character, Littlefoot. And I used to watch this movie every day, multiple times a day, for years, like as a little child. But the Lord brought back, I mean, it was not on my radar at all. This is like the beauty of when you start hearing God's voice. It's really cool. He brought this one scene at the beginning of the movie where Littlefoot is with his family and the great earth shake happens. That's what they call it in the movie. Littlefoot calls it an earth shake. This big continental divide begins to happen. And he gets separated from his family and these huge land masses form. And God began to show me, I was ministering to you and your story through that movie when you were 4, 5, 6 years old. And the reason you liked the movie, even though on the outside there was beautiful artwork and, you know, you liked the music and the characters and all that stuff, there was something much deeper going on that I was speaking a parable to your heart. God has done that in each of your lives. Trust me, there are songs, there are movies, there are things that you thought it was just a great experience, a cool movie, something you really grabbed. God Almighty is speaking to you. God Almighty is with you in that particular piece of art. So, fast forward a few years later, I had a pretty intense experience on this stage, okay? So, up here, so when I was a youth pastor of this church, this was, I think 10 years ago, maybe 11, we used to do these inner healing seminars, like teaching people how to walk through inner healing prayer. And they asked for a volunteer, someone who would be willing to go through inner healing in front of a whole group of people. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I don't know if I would still do this again or recommend anybody to do this, but they set up chairs. The 2 prayer counselors were up there and I was across from them, and they walked me through inner healing ministry in front of people and stuff. And they tried to keep it light. It was, they did a good job. But at one point in that prayer ministry, there's a moment where you begin to invite the Lord to shine His peace and His light into certain memories from your past. And I didn't have anything that at all came to mind, but I was like, okay, I'll just listen and close my eyes and see what happened. And all of a sudden, I got rocked with this memory, again, seemingly out of the blue, of being at my grandmother's house in the Pomona, New York area. So when my parents divorced, both of them were working like crazy, and I landed at my grandmother's house. So I was at her house. I basically grew up there. And so it's just this, it wasn't anything, dark or heavy. It was just me at my grandmother's house at the kitchen table at 5 years old. And all of a sudden in this memory, I saw Jesus sit down at the table with me. And, oh my goodness, you have to understand how intense this was, because when I look back on that season of my life and I think of Rockland County and things in that region and area and things I grew up with, I don't associate Jesus at all. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I had no inkling, no idea of who Jesus was. One time my grandmother gave me a cross and said, kiss it, on some Catholic holiday. I don't know what it was, and I refused to kiss it. And so that was the extent, right? So I had no association. When I think back to those memories, I didn't think of God. Okay, I just think of me trying to figure out my life in this wild world, right? And so it was really weird and deeply healing, redemptive, to begin to see Jesus in that place. And He put His hand on my hands, my 5-year-old hands. And he looked at me, and eyes can communicate a million words, right? So what I'm about to share, or attempt to share with you, because I really can't articulate it, was communicated just through his look at me. I'm sure many of you have had that before in worship, when you're praying. Just one look communicates something. And it was a flood of communication. But he looked at me as a child. It was and essentially what he said, to boil it down to me, was Nick, 5-year-old Nick, it's going to be okay. He said, what you're going to experience in the years ahead, there's going to be trouble. It was he was outlaying my life up to that point. There's going to be trouble. But I'm going to be with you. I'm going to lead you to this weird place called West Milford one day. You're going to have a family. The curse of divorce is going to be broken in your line. You're going to find me because of all this stuff. And when he said that, you're going to find me, that's when I lost it. And I started, like I'm doing right now, bawling in front of everybody at this inner healing seminar on the stage. And Jesus began to show me this very present help that was in my time of trouble. Now, maybe if I grew up in a Christian environment, I would have been more aware of that very present help. But it was still there, regardless of if I was conscious of it or not. So, there may be mountains in your life that are shaking, that have shaken. Maybe some are slipping away. Things that you have drawn stability from. And even looked at as a source of comfort. Or direction. Or maybe a source of provision. And things are shaking, and it's where is my compass right now? Where is north? I don't know where I'm going. It feels unstable. If the mountains of Warwick passed away today, I wouldn't know how the heck to get to Pine Island there. figure out some new roads. I'd have to go on an adventure. I was talking to someone this week whose firstborn son is going off to college. And so they were just expressing some of the emotion and the processing that goes into that. And I can't imagine. I'm trying to put my daughter on the first grade bus next week and I'm freaking out. Like, it's like a 10-minute ride. And I'm clinging to my very present health. And imagine college. This person you raised and loved. But there are times when we go through that stuff and things begin to slip, and that's when you have a choice. That's when you have a choice. Are you going to make your dwelling in the temple of fear, or are you going to live from the breath within your chest? Are you going to live from the head or the heart? Are you going to stop and breathe? Are you just going to stop and let go of the fear for a moment and take in what God is doing right now? Or are you going to let the future, the imaginary future, everything else, the past, suffocate you? So I want to show you guys a clip of something. So, I mentioned earlier that I went to Maine this past week. We went with the Gunthers over there. And we had a wonderful time. We rented a house, and I went whale watching. So I figured, okay, I've now said this like too much, but whales have been pretty freaking crazy in the church. There's been a lot of signs. Oh boy, I can't handle that right now. Can't put it back in your pocket. Thank you. So, yeah. Well, some organizations, like when they talk about their history, they talk about like the change in buildings or pastors or mission statement. Like, we talk about whales swallowing people and like sunflowers appearing out of nowhere and all kinds of weird stuff. And I would never have it any other way. But we've had some weird things happen with whales. Prophetic, wild things happen. So some of it's recorded. Anyway. I went to Maine, and it's one of the best places in the country to go whale watching. So I was like, okay, we just gotta do it. I'm out there anyway. And we went, and I saw 2 beautiful humpback whales. There's a whole other story I'm not gonna get into, but it's rare to see 2 together because they're very solitary in their travels. And Jeff and I got to watch them. So I have the video for it. That's not what I'm gonna show you right now, but you can check it out on my phone later if you want. It's amazing. Anyway, when I get to Maine, like this stuff is on my mind and on my heart. And there was one evening where Kelly put on a movie for the kids. They were sitting on the couch, we had just finished dinner, and I wasn't paying attention at all. The owner of the house, we rented a house, like an Airbnb type thing, they left a few movies. There was like 3 movies, right? It was like just a few kids' movies there. And she picked one, she puts it in, and I was pretty unaware of it as it was going on. I'm just cleaning up or reading or whatever, and then I go and sit down on the couch, and I realize that it's the movie Finding Nemo. And I go and sit down right at the scene where somebody gets swallowed by a whale. And this was significant to me because when all this crazy whale stuff was going on with our church, somebody, it was Dave over here, actually brought up this exact scene to me. He's like, Nick, you gotta see this scene from Finding Nemo. It is very, it's just, you'll understand when you see it, okay? You'll understand. But let me give you some background so you understand, a little bit more. The movie Finding Nemo is about this lost clownfish named Nemo, okay? How many people have seen the movie already? So I don't have to, okay, there's a few maybe who haven't, but I'll just reiterate. Okay, Nemo's lost. He's somewhere, they believe, in Sydney, Australia. And his dad is on the search of his life going across the whole ocean. So in this scene, you're going to see the dad. The dad is the one, he's traveling across the ocean, searching desperately for his son. And his dad is a worrywart. He's just a man who lives in fear. And his fear is one of the reasons that got him into the problem he's in the first place. But on the way, Nemo's dad meets this other fish named Dory. And Dory, I realized this as I'm preparing the message. I'm like, this is perfect because for those who know the movie, Dory lives in the moment. Dory forgets everything after 2 minutes. So it's like a brand new world again. Every She represents freedom. She represents living in the moment. And he's under all this fear. So they end up together in the belly of a whale. And she claims that she can speak well. And he's like, it's just annoying him like crazy. Well, you'll see. So you guys have that clip? Okay, go ahead.
What's going on?
Don't know. I'll ask him.
Dory.
What's going on? I think he says we've stopped.
Well, of course we've stopped. Just stop trying to speak whale. You're gonna make things worse. What is that noise? Oh no. Look what you did. The water's going down. It's going down.
Really? You sure about that?
Look, already it's half empty.
I'd say it's half full.
Stop that. It's half empty.
Okay, that one was a little tougher. He either said we should go to the back of the throat, or he wants a root beer float.
Of course he wants us to go there. That's eating us. How do I taste, Moby? Huh? Do I taste good? You tell him I'm not interested in being lunch.
Okay,
Stop talking to him. What is going on?
I'll check.
No more way. You can't speak whale.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. You think you can do these things, but you can't, Nemo.
Okay.
Dory!
He says it's time to let go. Everything's gonna be all right.
How do you know? How do you know something bad isn't gonna happen?
I don't.
We're alive!
Look, Sydney. 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 Yeah, Sydney again.
You were right, Dory. We made it. We're gonna find my son. Thank you, sir.
Wow. I wish I could speak whale.
Okay, all we gotta do is find the boat that took him.
Right.
Come on, Dory. We can do this.
That's so good. I'm almost tempted to let you play the Lion King too, if that would be awesome. So get this, and I wasn't going to share this. I just realized. So they assign animals for the kids to remember their school buses by. Everybody gets an animal picture for their school bus. So you want to take a guess what bus my daughter got picked for first grade? My daughter is going to be on the whale bus. I'll show you the paper. In the mail. Your daughter's on the whale bus. Yeah, so, anyway. Sometimes I'm like, Lord, am I dull of hearing, or are you just making a really, big point? Okay, so, alright. Pretty cool scene, right? He has to let go. He has to let go, but what happens when he does? Freedom. And he lands right where he was supposed to be. Right where his fear and all that stuff wouldn't have taken him. He lands right where he was supposed to be. And so I couldn't believe that this scene found its way to me on vacation when I'm planning to go watch. So anyway, every shaking, okay? Every season change, every moment like being swallowed up by something way bigger than yourself, way stronger, something you have no control over. There is opportunity always in that moment to enter into the breath of God. That's what whales are doing, by the way, when they spout, when the blowhole gets released. They're breathing. They're letting out air. I found that out on our whale watching tour. They're breathing. So 2 more verses out of Psalm 46, and then we're done. This is where it goes next. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I'm going to go back, though, to the first one there. The city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. Question for you, okay? What, or hint, who are the dwelling places? Us. You guys. I mean, countless Bible verse after Bible verse, Jesus' own words, says, you are the dwelling, you are the temple. So there's a bunch of dwelling places, and there's a little city, a little movable city right now in this room. Obviously there's, more than just us, but this is the city of God right here, because you are the dwelling places of God. So tune your heart in again to what this says here. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places. You are a holy dwelling place, folks. There is a river that you are invited to just let go and tap into it. Any moment. At any moment. Did you hear what I just said? I'm going to read, I want to read a quote of a quote. So this is an excerpt from a book that we're going to publish in like a few weeks. My friend Dylan, the missionary to Brazil, who was here, he's publishing his book, The Happy Trinity. And it's almost ready. I can't wait to share more with you about that. Anyway, I want to just give you a quick little excerpt from this book. He quotes C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis writes this beautiful thing in his book, The Great Divorce. And he comments on it a little bit. So let me just read this to you real quick. In The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, one character asks the spirit, "Why do I exist?" And the Spirit of God responds, "For infinite happiness." And you can step out into it at any moment. He goes on to write, the infinite happiness is God himself, and he offers himself freely to all people at all times, and those who seek find. Did you know that gladness is your portion? It is your inheritance right now. Like, not in the future. We think of happiness as like, this destination. It's really not. I'm telling you, even when you get to heaven one day, the big rude awakening of heaven is going to be like, oh my goodness, the kingdom was all around me all the time and I missed it. Like, really, like, in heaven, obviously the frequency is louder, it's more clear, but the real joy of heaven is Jesus Christ. And he's already with you. And, it's true. The city, the bride coming out of the clouds at the end of Revelation, that's not a future thing, actually. That's something that's happening right now. His kingdom is coming on earth as it is in heaven. It's a picture, that's the city of God, that's us. And every time the kingdom advances in our lives, Revelation 21 and 22 unfolds a little bit more. Anyway. Heaven is here now. It's inside you. And there's a river that you can drink from. There's a river in the city in Revelation. There's a river of life. Now here's one way to prove that it's not just about this future city. Jesus looked at a group of his disciples and he said, out of your bellies will flow a river of life. It's here now, folks. It's here now. It will manifest. It'll be clear and unveiled fully one day. But it's here now. Okay. The good news is that God is more present right now than the air in this room. And that's where we end. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. Well, morning dawned 2,000 years ago at the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The resurrection is your ever-present reality and help. So things might be moving around you. Things will move around you. Can I just, again, be nice and honest and real? Entire mountains might disappear. But you will not be moved. Because God is in the midst of it. And you will be okay. That's what Dory told him. Everything's going to be okay. How do you know everything's going to be okay? You don't. You step out. You live. You breathe. You be. You set your gaze on it. And soon that river starts to overflow. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to invite the worship team to come back up and play instrumentally for a little bit before they go into a last song. And I want to invite you to meditate on this verse as they play for a few moments. All right? I want to invite all of you to a place that many of you do not go that often, which is the present. And look, it's a nice place, I promise. It's like a country cottage you didn't know you had. It's like a backyard beach you were totally unaware of. Like you thought you had to travel miles and miles and spend a lot of money to get to paradise. And all along, paradise was inside of you. So let's stop. Let's stop to take a drink. Let's become aware of our breath. Let's breathe together. Let's become aware of Christ, the one sustaining you. If you got to close your eyes to focus, do that. Some people just, they feel peace and they just lounge. They just sit back and relax, and that's good. That happens to me all the time. But I also find that in meditation, it helps me to actually correct my posture and sit up straight. There's something about that it helps the circulation in the blood and it helps me focus a little bit. So it might feel like it takes some work, but you can lounge, be free. You can stand right now, especially as they get back into worship. Just jump in and worship, okay? We're going to give it a few moments of instrumental music, but if you're having a hard time connecting, just straighten your posture, close your eyes, and I'm going to speak out this scripture again. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. What do you see? There might be imagery. It might be just a feeling, peace. breathing. But Justin's playing music from Land Before Time. Gotta love him. Don't lose your way. With each passing day, you've come so far. Don't throw it away. Live believing. Dreams are for weaving. Wonders are waiting to start. Wonders are waiting to start. Live your story. Faith, hope, and glory. Hold the truth in your heart. If we hold on together, our dreams will never die. Dreams see us through forever, where clouds roll by for you and I. Souls in the wind must learn how to bend. Seek out a star and hold on to the end. Valley, mountain, there is a fountain that washes our tears all away. Words are swaying, somebody is praying, please let us come home to stay. If we hold on together, I know our dreams will never die. When we're out there in the dark, we'll dream about the sun, and in the dark we'll feel the light. It'll warm our